We have all heard about the urban legend about a dark, stormy night. A young woman is home alone when she turns on the radio to hear a patient has escaped from a psychiatric hospital. He is deranged and dangerous. He was last seen in the woman's neighborhood. She calls her husband at work to come home. This is when she hears a loud noise. When her husband picks up, the line goes dead. What happens when this terrifying campfire story becomes real? This is the reality that Nicola Cross felt in 2015 in Hempstead, England. Her husband was hours away when a stranger broke into their home and brutally attacked her. Her husband was on the phone listening to this while trying to get her help, while she fought to protect their children. Hi, if you're new here, I discuss true crime, paranormal phenomena, cults, and history. Please like and subscribe. Hype the video. You can also tip me on Ko-fi, so eventually I can do this full time. This is Wicked Wednesday. Without further ado, I am discussing the murder of Nicola Cross. This is her story. Today's case takes place in the country of England, located in the county of Hertfordshire, lies in the town of Hempstead. Though Hempstead is ranked as the 21st most dangerous town in Hertfordshire, no one expected the awful events that occurred in 2015 to happen. The Cross family lived in a house on Dunlin Avenue. Nikki met her husband Danny Cross in 2004. They ran in similar social circles, but officially met while dancing at a nightclub. Danny worked in IT and traveled often for work. After dating for 4 years, the couple had plans for marriage. Due to the financial crisis in 2008, they put marriage on hold. In 2009, Nikki gave birth to their first child, a son named Stanley, then had a daughter named Isabella in 2012, I believe. I could not find a birth year, but she was 3 when the case occurred. In 2013, Nikki finally married Danny. Danny described Nikki as the heart and soul of their family. She decided to be a stay-at-home mother until Isabel went off to school. She was a crafter and started her own custom gift company, Spruce Tags, in 2012. She was able to work from home while caring for her children. Nicola Cross, later described as loved by everyone who knew her and ready to help anyone who needed it, was very kind, beautiful, inside and out, and a wonderful mom. She did have some health issues and was hospitalized after having severe asthma attacks. There was a moment where it was unknown if Nikki would survive. Nikki and Dan decided to have a conversation in case she did not make it. She told him that if she did not make it, to move on and be happy. Dan reluctantly made this promise to Nikki that he would be happy for her and for the children if the worst happens. He was hoping he would not have to keep this promise though. Like the badass Nikki is, she fought like hell and got through this period of health issues. This is true to her personality, as she had personal mantras of keep aiming and never give up. They were together for 11 years and even took a family vacation weeks before this awful murder. Just weeks before this happened, they spent 2 weeks in Majorca. This leads us to the night of September 14th, 2015. In the morning, Nikki started her day. She had a bit of a headache because she went to a concert the night before with Dan and some friends. They had a good time and had drinks, so she was just dealing with a hangover as a result. Of course, moms do not have a day off, so she began her day. Stanley and Isabella were both recovering from the flu, so she was just caring for them. Now, the IT company that Dan worked with did an overhaul with how it was running. This is why Dan was going to be 3 hours away in Hull. Colleagues of his decided to go out for a night at the pub. Dan decided to call it a night, go to his hotel room, and talk to Nikki. Around 7:30 p.m., he spoke to Nikki and his kids before he ended up going to bed. Nicola was home with her children while her husband was working 3 hours away. A stranger was seen roaming around the neighborhood, knocking on random doors and asking if children were at different residences. Nikki was settling for a quiet night after tucking her 2 children into bed. Around 10:30 p.m. that night, Nikki, not expecting any guests or anyone, heard pounding on her door. Looking through the window, she saw a man peering in her window, his nose pressed up against the glass. He started hitting her vehicle, and when she told him to stop, he began pounding on her door again and demanded she open the door. What really terrified her was that she heard him say something like, "I am here for the kids," which as a mother is my worst nightmare. She then called the police. They arrived after 15 minutes. The police searched him, but said they had no reason to arrest him. Therefore, they just told him to go back home. He returned to his Claymore Avenue home and grabbed a small knife from his knife block. Nikki asked for an update, and the police told her that they had to let him go. She then called Danny back and made a plan for her to go to his parents, which she did not have time to carry out. She stayed on the phone with Danny. The idea was to continue talking until she was safe. When things seemed to get better, she decided to try and get some sleep. Around 11:30 p.m., Dan woke up to a message from Nikki to call her back when he got her message. What had happened was she heard noises coming from the back of the house. She thought she was just scared because of what happened earlier that evening. She apologized to Dan about calling the police, thinking maybe it was over-exaggeration, but he told her she did the right thing. She told him that she thought she heard noises and that she was scared. He told her to call the police and they would reassure her that he was in a jail cell, but she informed him that they had to let him go because he was unarmed. Dan tried to reassure her, but was also worried. He suggested going to his parents because they were out of town, but left a spare key. This is when she went upstairs to pack a bag. She heard a loud bang downstairs, but Dan said he could not hear anything. He was waiting for Nikki to respond, but all he heard was silence, until suddenly he heard a scream. Nikki began telling someone to leave and pleading with them not to hurt her children. She said, "You do not have to do this. Please, don't do this." Then he heard the voice respond, "I do. I do." She started to cry and offered to help him, which just showed the kind of person she was. Danny called the police using the hotel phone, also listening to Nikki, relaying what he knew. He then heard his wife scream and then silence. He knew it was too late, but still, he pleaded with Nikki not to give up. He said over and over, "Don't you dare leave me." He then called 999, which is the UK's emergency number, from his hotel room. He knew it was most likely too late for Nikki, but his children were in danger. There was confusion where to send the police because, like I said, he was 3 hours away in Hull. He got frustrated and had to keep repeating himself. Then while on his cell in the hotel phone, he heard Stanley and Isabella led out to their room by a strange voice, most likely the killer. He heard little voices say, "Mommy's heart," and why did this happen to her? On Nikki's end is the thing of nightmares. He arrived at Nikki's home through a large pot at her back patio door, grabbed a large knife from her kitchen, and headed upstairs. She pleaded with him like I mentioned. The man stabbed her 10 times, including in the left ventricle of her heart, making her lose consciousness in minutes and ultimately killing her. Police arrived and saw him attacking Nikki, but unable to open the door. Nikki was covered in blood and banging on the bathroom window. Still, they did nothing. They went to the back patio gate, which was locked, but saw the stranger carrying Isabella and holding Stanley's hands, attempted to take them. The police stopped him, and the children were not harmed, other than a few cuts on their feet after walking over the glass. The smaller knife must have broken because they found the handle and blade in different places in the room. He then continued with the larger knife he got from the Cross family's kitchen. After knowing that his children were safe, Danny hung up and started to make the drive home. Not knowing the outcome, I could only imagine how long this drive would have felt. The police arrested the stranger who murdered 37-year-old Nicola Cross. His name was Marcin Porczynski. Marcin Porczynski was a 23-year-old man from Poland who worked as a warehouse worker at a Martin Brewer distribution. Co-workers said that he kept to himself, which is very typical for killers. He lived only 5 minutes from the Cross home. He lived with a housemate who became worried about Marcin and started saying that he was hearing voices and talking about things that had not happened yet. He said that he was not showing up to work and found him in the dark in their garden, canatonic. On the evening of September 14th, Marcin left his home in the direction of Nicola's house. It is believed he may have been watching the family for weeks. When he was arrested for the first time, he was mumbling about the children. He still was not arrested because he did not have a weapon, just told to go home. He went home alright. He grabbed a knife from the kitchen and put it in his pocket and headed back to the home. At 11:25, he smashed her neighbor's patio door, and the neighbor asked him what he was doing there. Upon realizing that he was at the wrong house, he left. He was arrested after murdering Nicola. He received a psychiatric evaluation and was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Marcin testified that he heard voices telling him that Nikki was holding 2 children in her home, captive, and starving them. He believed that he had to murder her to protect the kids and to save his family back in Poland. His friends and family said he showed no signs of mental illness, so I either think it wasn't as bad at the time when they saw him, or they're just oblivious or ignoring signs. How could everyone just drop the ball? Marcin pled guilty with reason of mental illness or diminished capacity. He was sentenced to a psychiatric unit indefinitely. He will remain at Repton Psychiatric Hospital until he is fit to live out in the community. He will remain at Rampton Psychiatric Hospital until he is fit to live out in the community. If he were deemed to be safe to be discharged, he would be monitored closely, supposedly, but we know how that goes. He was charged with manslaughter, attempted kidnapping, burglary, and aggravated burglary. Traces of cocaine and cannabis were found in his system, but it was not enough to have any bearing on the murder. The Independent Police Complaints Commission investigated the police. They found that the police followed policies and guidelines, so there was no misconduct. At her funeral, 400 people attended, wearing bright colors, which was a wish that they discussed when she was not sure she would make it through her health struggles. Dan dealt with PTSD while raising their children alone, as one may imagine. He would constantly relive the memory of him sitting on the edge of the hotel bed, feeling hopeless, reliving their last call. He replayed the night thinking about what he could do differently. But eventually he knew that would not bring Nikki back, and guilt would only swallow him in darkness, along with their children. Stanley remembers that night vividly and deals with night terrors. He got the children into therapy to heal his shattered family. He moved himself and the kids in with his parents. He avoided therapy for a while for himself. He contributed this to internalized male pride and maybe a little. He felt as he needed to man up, but realized that was a mistake. He could not keep ignoring his PTSD or it would continue to hinder his parenting. This is when he trained for a show called SAS, Who Dare Wins. SAS is the Special Air Forces. He had to stop the show though due to a knee injury, but his story impacted viewers. Dan started a foundation in Nikki's name called Nikki's Wishes. He also wrote an emotional blog, which I will link at the bottom of this section. It shows the impact that Nikki's death had on Danny. In 2018, he married a mental health professional who helped Danny and the children through their grief. She made it a priority to keep Nikki's memory alive for their children. They also had a daughter of their own. Now it's time for my final thoughts. Usually it's not as long as it's going to be today. I just have a lot of thoughts, so bear with me. This is a tragic case all around. I feel so sad for Danny and the kids. I have strong feelings towards the police. They saw it through the window. They had a reason to bust in. They watched her die. Who knows, they could have saved her. We will never know. I actually covered this on my TikTok and I got a lot of comments about the police in England that they don't carry weapons, and I would like to say all he had was a knife. They had tasers, which is good for long distance apprehension. I don't really like tasers, but in this case I think it would have been justified. Batons and pepper spray. Any of that would have worked. Anybody who says anything is just making excuses for the police. They completely failed her. Now, I know Marcin's sentence is controversial. I feel like he was fouled, and and with his sentence, he will only be released if he is found competent. Schizophrenia usually gets worse, not better, so he will probably have to live the rest of his life in the facility. I think that's the best place for him, is to be locked there, getting help, because he's not going to get it in prison. And this is as sad, as horrific as what he did. But I like to use these stories as a lesson, but I'm at loss of what we could do. Nikki did the right thing. She locked her doors, called the cops, attempted to leave the property, and I guess we should just listen to our loved ones when they are showing signs of mental illness, as hard as it is to believe that they could do something like this. Like I said, the link for her foundation will be in my description box. The funds go to children who are grieving their parents. I want to know your opinion, but please be respectful. If you're a judgmental dick, you will be removed and blocked. Comment, like, and subscribe. If you have any future cases you'd like me to cover, please request a case using my form in the description box. Join me on Freaky Friday when I discuss something that kind of fits into this case. It will be the morbid history of a psychiatric facility. Until next time, stay curious, cautious, and safe. And please don't let creepy guys lingering outside women's windows go. Okay? Bye.